The rate of change is so fast. And if you don't get involved now, you're going to just be so far behind. So learn, play, and implement AI, man. That is like the mantra.
Welcome back to Chiropractors, where we talk business growth for, well, chiropractors. That voice you just heard belongs to Dr. Jay Greenstein. And man, does he have a pulse for where the chiropractic profession is headed. Is this actually going to help me see more patients and make more money, or is this just another shiny object? Well, Jay is the guy to answer that. He's been in the game for over 30 years, running multiple successful locations in the DC area, but more than that, he's a massive data nerd who founded a nonprofit clinical institution and a tech company called Embody Health. On this episode, we are getting into the weeds on some really important stuff. Number one is the retention problem and why even your best patients ghost you once they start feeling better, and how Jay is using gamification to fix that. Jay's 4-pillar framework for using AI in hiring, operations, and clinical care. Why he believes the traditional insurance model is a dead end for owners who want to build true financial wealth in their business, and so much more. Jay is one of the sharpest leaders that I've had on this show, and he's incredibly transparent on this episode about some of the leadership mistakes that he made that almost cost him everything. Whether you're looking to scale to the next level or you just don't want to get left in the dust from all this new AI technology stuff that's happening, you're going to want to check this one out. Let's dive in. Dr. Jay in the house. Welcome to the show, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Corey. How you doing?
This is good. This must be my third now doing these live. These are streaming both LinkedIn and YouTube, and it's been fun to kind of do them live and get a little bit of watcher feedback and answer some questions and see what people think about them, and just have a good time. So thanks for doing this.
Oh man, I'm so excited.
So you could do a far better job at introducing yourself than I could. I obviously know that you were a very successful chiropractic business owner. You have multiple locations. You have another business by the name of Embody Health, which obviously you're wearing on your shirt right now at this very exact second. But maybe give somebody that knows nothing about you the elevator pitch as to who you are and what you've been up to.
Yeah, chiropractor over 30 years, multiple locations in the DC metro region. We have a sports performance and personal training company. We have a clinical research institute. It's a nonprofit where we run clinical trials. And then we've got our technology company, Embody, where we help chiropractors improve patient outcomes and drive more income through gamification.
I love the gamification piece of it, which obviously we'll dive into that in a little bit later here. But before we do, the topic of discussion here is really about technology, data, hopefully solving the retention issue that I know so many businesses deal with. Yeah. And I actually literally last night just had a call with a couple other doctors talking specifically about just some of the use of the technology and the AI tools. And there's just so much. There's so much data. There's so much noise. There's so much like people that'll put their flag in the sand of like, this is what you should do, but it's just so much more nuanced than that, which is something I want to dive into in this conversation. Yeah. So I guess really where to start is like, I guess where does somebody start, right? There's just so many things we could talk about.
I think when it comes to patient behaviors and retention, you're so right. Like there's so many rabbit holes, for lack of a better word, that you can go down. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of content out there. There's a lot of tools and a lot of technology. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, business owners and practice owners have to ask themselves a really important question, which is, what are my goals? And also, like, what is my practice culture? So for a doctor who, let's say, doesn't want to use technology, doesn't have any inkling for technology, doesn't have a patient base who uses technology, go buy Joey Coleman's book, Never Lose a Customer Again, read that and implement it in your practice. But if you're interested in technology and you want to create change at scale and you want to make sure that you're not left behind in the era that we live in right now, then leveraging tools that engage patients in ways they've never been engaged before through digital health, leveraging AI, using tools for the right business use case, all those things can be very, very important and can help you be even more successful because technology can really help people scale.
So why is retention important though, right? As somebody who personally loves the marketing side and having conversations about how many new patients are you getting and how many leads and how many events are you doing and what's your ad spend look like? And I love having conversations like that, but maybe explain to a doctor, like why is, especially for a successful practice, because that's a lot of listeners of the show, is somebody that has a well-built practice. Let's say they're to the point where maybe retention should be the topic of discussion.
Yeah. There's two main things that I think about. The first thing I think about is the clinical outcomes piece. So we've all had patients that walk through the door, they come in one time or they come in 3 times or whatever it is, and then they ghost us. And then we have to figure out, okay, well, why? What happened? Did they have a bad experience? Did they feel better? When we look at our data, and we, we're a very data-driven organization in our clinics, we found that one of the most common reasons that patients stop coming in is because, guess what? They feel better and they think they're actually functionally better, but they're not, and their problem returns, and they turn around and they say, chiropractic doesn't work. Now, we're the only industry in the world where if a patient has a less than optimal experience with that service provider, that all of a sudden the entire industry is damned. Now, I do a lot of policy work. I do a lot of volunteer work in this profession. I've been doing it a very long time. So I love this profession. I don't want people running around saying that chiropractic doesn't work when they were shitty patients. So for me, there's multiple layers. One is, if patients will not get the best long-term outcome if they discontinue care too soon. 2, I don't want people running around being crappy patients saying that chiropractic doesn't work. 3, there's an obvious business use case for it as well. We want patients to adhere to their care plan and then become loyal, raving fans, and that's retention. And I just want to clarify an important use of terminology. A lot of people use the word compliance. It's not compliance. Compliance is telling somebody what to do. Adherence is shared decision-making towards a given plan, and retention is loyalty. And so from my perspective, adherence and retention, those two things, that's the holy grail. So we're building in systems both in clinic and of course with technology to help patients adhere, but ultimately we want to keep them well so their bodies don't break down again. And that's retention and loyalty.
So then how does one build loyalty then, right? I feel like that's the next obvious question is okay, let's say the listener believes that retention or loyalty is the holy grail of having a long-term successful practice and scaling this practice. How does one do it? I've heard you say that there's maybe a science around this to adherence, and also too that maybe patient education isn't enough. Because I would say most doctors that I talk to are yeah, we just need to educate our patients. But I feel like you're saying maybe otherwise.
Yeah, so let's take the adherence piece first, getting patients just to complete whatever prescribed care plan we give them. Education is important, but there's a lot of literature out there on the science of adherence. Things like goal setting and shared decision making, understanding the treatment plan, which is education, trustworthiness of the provider, because we know that people buy from who they know, like, and trust. Personalized care plan has actually been shown to drive better adherence because patients feel like they're getting this care plan that's not just given to everybody, but is really specified for them. Those things, are really, really important in driving adherence, but we also have to understand the 3 B's of behaviors. One is, what is the behavior that we got to get the patients to do when it comes to adherence? It's really showing up for their visits. 2, what are the barriers, the logistical barriers, the cognitive barriers, the financial barriers? There are real barriers that exist that prevent our patients from continuing care. We have to understand what those barriers are. And 3, we've got to be able to continually provide the benefit, not just the feeling better part, because that's important, but if we can also drive the benefit through just these external and also identifying intrinsic motivational techniques, understanding what their goals are, the emotions tied to achieving those goals, and build in strategies that constantly remind the patients of the benefits of why they're doing the thing that they're doing, to overcome those logistical barriers. That's really where the secret sauce is. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. I
was going to say, no, I think you're about to jump into it, but I think this is a good segue to, I guess, Embody, right? Because what you kind of alluded to earlier is a big part of this is the gamification of it, right? Is getting this loyalty is to gamify somebody to want to come in, I guess, from the games that maybe you play. Can you maybe tell the genesis of Embody and maybe jump on from there?
Absolutely. It started with a retention problem. Honestly, we've had our clinics for many years, and we've gone through a couple different iterations of names. And in 2018, we decided that we were going to change the name again for the 3rd time. What
was the first 2?
First one was Chiro Center of Maryland.
Okay.
The next one was Sport and Spine Rehab. Okay. And that we had a good run with Sport and Spine Rehab. But the thing is that we were very early on in providing active care in combination with chiropractic. So a lot of active rehab, soft tissue work, those types of things. And the name made sense. But over time, there were so many, pain management, physical therapy, chiropractic clinics that had sport or spine or rehab in their names. There was no differentiation. And so we just said, enough of this. We're going to pick a name that nobody else has. People might not even understand. And we picked the name Kaizo. Kaizo is the Japanese word for rebuild, reconstruct. And in the gaming world, it's known as a hack and pushing the limits of human potential. And that just resonated with our team. Like, how do we push the limits of human potential? And so we changed to Kaizo, but as we were, coming up with a real cool logo and new colors and all that kind of stuff, I was like, guys, it can't just be, if we're building a new brand, we're optimizing this brand, we can't just think about pretty colors and a cool logo. What are we actually rebuilding and reconstructing? And so we looked at all of our data and we said, we have an opportunity to change the game for adherence. And so we looked at our data and we found that, again, one of the number one reasons for self-discharges was that patients felt better. So we were like, okay, well, where are patients? They're always on their phones. How do we gamify the experience? Because we know that rewards programs actually work to drive patient loyalty or customer loyalty. Starbucks, hotels, United Airlines, whatever. We know it works because people love free shit, Corey, right? They just want free shit. And so we built an OIG compliance because we hired an OIG attorney to vet the whole gamification thing because there's inducement laws and all kinds of stuff that you just don't want to violate. So we built this app. It was a very low code. I call it the shitty little app, but it was cool. We built this app and we just gamified the patient experience. So when patients came in, they got a point. When they reached a certain number of points, they get an OIG compliant reward. And when we looked at the data, I remember the first time we looked at the data and I almost fell over in my chair. Now, remember, we have a clinical research institute. We're very strong at data. We're very strong at running studies. And so the adherence rates were insane. Those numbers were 36% better. The users of our app were had 36% more visits and about 32% more revenue than non-users. And so I called my friend Bibu. By the way, I was just there today. Dr. Bibu Misra. He's a great chiropractor here in Northern Virginia, multiple practices, great dude. And I was just there today actually doing a site visit, a customer visit, because he's now a customer of Embody. But I called him, I was like, Biebs, because he's a very critical thinker. And I was like, if anybody's going to criticize my idea, it's going to be him. And I told him the story and I was like, do you want us to build you one of these apps? And he's like, yeah. And so, we went with him and then I called a couple other friends and they started using it. And then we built this platform called Canvas and it was great. And as we were building it, and as we're bringing on more customers, we used that revenue to start building Embody because that product had no PHI. We weren't collecting any healthcare information on that platform. And my goal is to improve healthcare outcomes worldwide through chiropractic. And so we had to have PHI, we had to have outcomes data. And so we used all that revenue and we started just building Embody. And with Embody, not only are we gamifying the patient experience, we're identifying intrinsic motivators, we're using behavioral science and communication around those goals and those intrinsic motivators. And of course, we're using extrinsic motivators like an optimized gamified experience. Now we're using coins, we're creating a coin economy inside of practices to really drive these jobs to be done, the behaviors that we need our patients to do, to strengthen the relationship between the patient and the provider and make sure they come in for their visits, complete their care plans, and become raving loyal fans. So yeah, I know that was a lot. Sorry.
No. That was everything we needed. What I love about this is, as a fellow ex-gamer, I resonate with this a lot. And I can't help but think about how useful something like this could be for literally every practice that sees patients, not only for the benefit of the clinic, but also the benefit of the patient, because they're obviously going to get longer, better care. They're going to stick around longer. They're going to maybe adhere to it better because they're going to get points or rewards or whatever the case might be, which is all phenomenal. I'd be curious as to maybe double tap on some of these behavioral things that you guys are maybe doing. Cause the first thing that comes to mind is, I don't know if you're familiar with BJ Fogg, but
oh yes. Tiny habits, baby. Yeah.
Exactly. And one of my favorite quotes from that book is that people change best by feeling good, not by feeling bad. Yeah. And at the core of that message is really what you're doing already is you're rewarding people for maybe adhering to the plan or coming in for the visit or whatever it is. So I'm curious as to so I'm just thinking about the doctor, the chiropractic business owner listening right now, and they're probably thinking of okay, what are things that I could maybe do, or what are the things that you guys get to do with this application as well that does reward or adhere, or how are you gamifying it? What are the specifics around that?
Yeah. So first of all, Corey, kudos to you, bro, because not a lot of people know about BJ Fogg. That's stellar. That's up there. That's fantastic. There's multiple ways that we can communicate with patients through the platform. And so we have an entire patient communication component to it: email, text, in-app messaging. And based on the patient behaviors, maybe they're doing a really good job at adhering, or maybe they're not for whatever reason. To your point, we're not shaming them like, hey, you didn't do this thing, or we need you to come in for your visit. It's more a lot of encouragement. And as we have been collecting data on patient behaviors, and we can see patient behaviors and we track them against outcomes as well, like that's all part of the provider dashboard. They can see percentage of adherence, they can see patients who are improving, not improving, et cetera. As we start to gather that data, we're building AI agentic infrastructure so that actually the experience will be even more conversational with patients, so that their AI assisted chaperone, coach, whatever you want to call it, will be able to provide the right type of communication at the right moment to move that patient to do the things they need to do when they need to do it. And if they can't do it then, can we inspire and motivate them to do it at least some point in the future, even if they're doing just a small component of that habit? So it could be doing one out of the 3 home exercises. It could be just reporting on one patient outcome reported measure so the provider knows how they're doing. Or it could be, making sure they reschedule their appointment instead of canceling it so they stay on track with their goal plan. And so right now we're just in the data aggregation and collection phase and starting to build out these models, these LLM models, so that we can train the agents to respond to the patient in an even more personalized way. So it's not always the provider providing that encouragement or their CA providing the encouragement. Sure, they can do that in the clinic, but also that they have this, I'll call it a Sherpa guiding them when they're not in the clinic. And I think that is, so our software is a remote therapeutic monitoring software. And it's all about making sure the patient feels cared for when they're not in the clinic as well. And automating as much of those processes as we possibly can, whether it's coins that they're earning for stuff that they're supposed to be doing, or whether it's communication that we're providing to that patient to help them make really good decisions. Like our mission statement is helping people make better healthcare decisions. So whether that's the patient or the provider, when those things happen, we reduce overall costs and we improve outcomes globally. So did that help answer the question?
Yeah, 100%. And as somebody who used to practice as an occupational therapist, I can safely say that adherence or compliance to any sort of home exercise program was like abysmal. We're talking like single percentages, maybe.
Yeah.
And so like anything we can do to increase that, obviously back to my original statement of not only does this better for the patient, but it's better for the business as well. It's like, it's a win-win-win all around.
It is.
I'm curious as to like, I've heard you note that the profession chiropractic, or really probably healthcare in general, is like really far behind in regards to using technology, using AI, having the right infrastructure. What even outside of Embody, like what do you feel like the practices should be using or thinking about, or what would be involved in like a modern chiropractic practice that you feel like every clinic should be using really ultimately?
Yeah, I mean, my mantra is that those who learn, play, and implement AI win. Like that's my mantra. And I think people are intimidated by AI if they're not already, you've got your power users, right? You got your people who just, they're all in, but you've got a lot of chiros out there that are just not engaging, or they're only partially engaging. And I'm like, you just have to just take a deep dive and play. Like when we were kids and we played, like, I'm going to date myself right now, but like we played with like Lincoln Logs, right? We'd build shit and it'd fall over and then we'd be like, oh, let's just try again. Like nobody cried because their Lincoln Logs fell over. They'd be like, oh, that was cool. Or sometimes we even destroy them, right? And then we start all over again. We just played, we experimented. And like, I just want chiropractors out there to experiment with AI. There are so many different tools. There's an abundant amount of use cases that I just want them to try. And I'm just going to rattle off a couple of them. Like when it comes to like written generative AI, everybody for the most part knows ChatGPT and some are using it, but there's Gemini, there's Perplexity, there's Claude. Those are all 4 different types of tools that you can use for different use cases. There's Gamma to build great presentations. There's Opus for, and CapCut to be able to like take long form video and make short term video, Notebook LM. You can build a podcast in 3 minutes just based on content you upload or a cool video that you can use for patient or team education in a matter of minutes using Notebook LM. Like those are just some of my favorites, but there's a lot more. So like anybody who's listening to this, who's not engaging in AI, just start playing. The world is okay. So I told you I was, going to visit my friend Bibu. He's out in Loudoun County, Virginia. And it's been about a year since I've been to their practice to meet with their team. And I was dumbfounded. Like the number and the size of these server farms that are all built for AI is unbelievable. Like I had to take video of it because my mind was blown. Like the rate of change is so fast. And if you don't get involved now, you're going to just be so far behind. So learn, play, and implement AI, man. That is like the mantra.
Yeah, the one I would add to that list, I mean, God, there's so many, is the one I was just telling you, I had that call last night. We were playing with some AI stuff with some other doctors. And one is literally just AI Studio or Google's AI Studio.
Uh-huh.
So we were able to essentially build lead magnets, like full on applications, like literally with like scrollers and like outputs, and like you could input a bunch of things and it would give you an output based on a quiz you could take. We could build full on lead magnets within literally like minutes.
It's great.
And it's like previously this would take 6 months to build an application, and now you can do it in 6 minutes, which is obscene to think about.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
Just one, but there's
That's
so many.
Really cool. That's really cool.
I use Gamma all the time.
I'll have to pick your brain about that, by the way. I'm interested to hear what you're doing in marketing, man. That's great.
We do a call once a month where we just like nerd out on this stuff and talk about like what we've been using and what we've been, to your point, been playing with. And it's been super helpful because like otherwise it becomes intimidating, right? Because there are so many and then you just don't use it. And then the whole classic thing whereas like you fear the unknown and then you never use it and then you just get farther behind.
100%.
But I want to tap into the 4 pillars. So you break down AI into 4 key use cases: people, culture, operations, marketing, and clinical.
Yeah.
Can you maybe like give some context around that? What does that mean? Like, how is that useful to a chiropractic business owner?
Yeah, no, I think that's great, Corey. Thank you. I'm so glad that you brought this up because when I think about AI, I think about like the 4 main use cases when it comes to your business, to your practice. And it all starts with talent. And so how do we hire, train, retain, engage real A+ players? And there are so many ways that we can do that using these tools, whether it's building job ads, job descriptions, training checklists, KPIs, goal setting, ongoing training, even ongoing training around teaching them about AI. Like there's an endless set of use cases for talent management. And the reason why I always start with talent management, and you mentioned this earlier, it's like, what are the drivers of adherence and retention? And I mentioned some of the scientific literature that's been published, but there's also some really good data and evidence published by Press Ganey, published by Gallup, that shows that the number one driver of patient satisfaction and loyalty is how well the team works together to take care of the patient. So for me, in the spirit of Jim Collins in the book Good to Great, first who, then what? So how do we leverage these AI tools to bring on the right people and make sure they're in the right seat, doing the right work in the right way at the right time? So I start with talent management, and then we go to operations. How do you build operational infrastructure using AI tools and helping to? And my chief integration officer came up with this. How do we AED our processes and use AI to do that? How do we automate? How do we eliminate? And how do we delegate some of these tasks that our teams have been doing, maybe for their legacy tasks, that we can now like just have AI do, or have AI do something else, and we can eliminate that workflow altogether. So that's kind of the operations side. Marketing, listen, you're the expert. You probably could talk circles around me when it comes to marketing. But I feel like whether it's, and when I use tools, I love using Opus. It's great. It's just such an amazing tool for me to take, film a video and then chop it up, and then my team uses it, or I just send them the long form video and then they just do it. Or just creating patient education content through Gamma or Notebook LM, training, just using these tools to train our team to help educate our patients, using these educational tools directly for our patients on our TVs and our clinics, just endless use cases. Because I'm a big proponent of internal referral strategies. I want patients to refer patients. And so using these tools, these education tools that we can help patients know what other patients can come into our practice and can be helped, I think is a really great use case for some of these tools like Gamma and Notebook LM. And then the clinical piece, I've talked about a little bit as it relates to Embody, but like there's so many different ways that we can use AI to help create a more remarkable clinical experience. we could audit our entire clinical care plan or our clinical journey for our patients and ask AI, how do we make this better? How do we make it more remarkable so we turn adherent patients into loyal patients that are coming in, once a month or once every few weeks, whatever they clinically need or whatever they want, so that they're retained and they are living a really healthy, happy life. So again, lots of different use cases. I could ramble on forever, but those are some of the things that I talk about when I teach.
Yeah, from a marketing standpoint, I can safely tell you that the number one question I get is, how do I show up in ChatGPT? Which is a fair question, but I will be honest, that is by far.
AI for search, absolutely. I'm so glad that you brought that up, Corey. And it is really important. And I know we're not interviewing you. You're going to come on our podcast soon. But I think that's so relevant. It's a really important question. And those are the people that are really thinking about what not the future looks like, but what the present looks like. And if somebody has not done this, and I'm sure you teach this all the time, just do it on your own practice. Like just go in and see where you stand. And there's some really cool tools out there as well that people can use to get like a score and an assessment. And so, yeah, AI for search is big.
I think most people are shocked because even like a lot of the docs that I work with are probably ranked number one on Google Maps, and they have a ton of reviews and they're all 5-star and they've done all this SEO work. And then they jump into like a ChatGPT or a Gemini and they don't even show up. They're not even they're not even visible at all. And they're like, what the hell? And it's like, yeah, it's a whole new world, man.
Yeah, it is a whole new world. Exactly.
It's such an interesting disruption. It's great, honestly, for, I will say too, especially like small businesses just in general, because like when you look at these giant conglomerate companies that have built like just massive brands and put probably millions of dollars into their SEO and their search, it's honestly, a lot of it's gotten thrown out the window. And so like the small business now has an opportunity to go like, oh wait, I can actually rank on this platform. Like this is when previously that would have been impossible if you didn't have like $1 million budget. But anyways, so I know you've built multiple practices. You got a successful tech company, obviously, with what you're building with Embody. And I know you highlight process, culture, and marketing, which we just briefly talked about. I'd be curious as to like, which one of those three do you think is the biggest growth challenge? And which one is maybe like the hardest fix, or like, and how do you fix it ultimately?
I think, it's a really good question. I think it's probably different for each individual. Like for me, probably, I don't want to do process, but I understand the importance of it. I get process. Marketing has been a challenge for me. So like working with somebody like you would be super helpful for me because that's your zone of genius. But I would say for most people, when I'm out in the field and I'm having conversations or I'm speaking at events, probably the biggest struggle that most people deal with is the human capital management. Like how do I deal with people and leadership and building great culture? And for me, it's been a 32-year journey. And like I was the shittiest leader on the planet when I started. I was horrible. I was like the poster boy for horrible bosses. I mean, I was just terrible. So much so that we almost went bankrupt, pretty early on in the career. And that was just the financial side of me being a terrible boss. Like I was just, I would scream at people and I was like awful. I'm a nice person, but I'm passionate. So like I would get all riled up and not good. But
what changed? What changed for you? How did you grow out of that?
I was really committed to wanting to build an environment where people actually loved the culture, loved the company. And I knew that I wasn't doing it well. And I always, my biggest challenge, early on as a leader, very impulsive, very passionate, and I would just let my emotions get the best of me. And I could see how that was creating a business that wasn't optimized, wasn't working well, was upsetting people that I cared about and loved. And I didn't want that. So I knew like I literally had to change. And I did. Like I've changed a lot. And I still probably have my moments, but but at least, I'll say something like, can I vent for a moment? And then my team will just like let me vent, and it's cool because they know it's like not an attack on them. But I actually love leadership. I love studying leadership. I love learning about great leaders because I really feel like that is probably the biggest point of inflection that we have as humans. Like think about the change that we can create in the world when we become really, really great leaders. And I just am constantly thinking about that and focused on that pretty much every day of my life. And I'm very blessed that I have an amazing team, and they help me grow every single day.
I would probably echo that. I'll be honest, on so many of the conversations that I've had with doctors as well, is that I just know the team building, the culture building, the hiring of associates, like those are like just massive challenges I know so many doctors deal with, which is crazy because I think there's like 60 or 70,000 chiropractors or some crazy number like that out there. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so interesting. But so what do you think is the biggest misconception about high earners that you think prevent most chiropractics from being able to scale? Like, do you think it is maybe hiring bad associates? Do you think it's more insurance related? Do you think it's maybe marketing related? Like, what do you think the biggest misconception is?
Corey, man, that's such a good question. And I would argue that it's like multifactorial, and it's probably very much related to the individual practice owner. It could be things like insurance. I will share transparently, like, our revenue from insurance is not growing. Now, we did get a bump in one of our largest payers this year, which is great, but it has been a challenge to really grow the revenue with just an insurance-based practice. And so now we've started to expand into a wide variety of cash-based services that we can offer our patients. So for some, business owners, it might be that. For some, it may be a leadership issue. For some, maybe it's a mindset issue. So for some, it could be they have terrible processes. Some, maybe they don't want to scale and grow their business. Maybe they're happy seeing 80 people a week, and that's really where they want to live, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I would say, if people want to pull the greatest lever they can pull, it is the people lever. It's about creating leverage through others. That's how you're really going to grow the business. It's about not just working in the business or working on the business. My buddy Steve Franson says this all the time. You got to get to a point where you're working above the business as well. That's really important. And, at the end of the day, when we can actually build great teams because we've done the hard work, our own leadership skills, we've hired and retained and trained the right people to give them autonomy, mastery, and purpose. That's from, Dan Pink's book, Drive. The sky is literally the limit. So, elevate your leadership skills. And I think that's going to be a great way to scale your business.
Two questions that I want to pull from that. You can take either or both, or in any order that you want. One is, it seems like from this conversation, just how important leadership is. It's something that you obviously study a lot and learn a lot. So I'm curious as to what your advice would be to others that are trying to figure out how to hone and dial in that skill. Because I agree, like, eventually as a business scales and grows, is like, that is going to be essential, is that you develop that leadership, or at least find somebody that can fill that role of leadership. So that's one question. Mm-hmm. We can put a pin in that for just 1 second. And then the other side of it is, you alluded to the insurance challenge, which I know this is another common topic that I hear a lot of doctors talk. Actually, literally today, I was on a call with a girl who she's just like in this weird phase of like, she did do insurance, but they were never paying enough. And now she's trying this cash-based thing. And like, maybe there's a hybrid model that lives there. I don't know. But the perfect answer is it's going to be different for everybody. But yeah, I'd be curious as to like how you've been able to navigate that world as well.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll start with the leadership piece. And the question was like, how do people build their leadership skills, or what are the things that are most important? And what the science says about leadership, Corey, is that self-awareness is one of the key elements of being able to be a really good leader. And that's an evidence-based statement. Like, I've seen multiple published studies on that. So how do you gain self-awareness? Well, one is you can use validated assessments, the Myers-Briggs, Strength Finders, there's the grit scale from Angela Duckworth. Like, there's so many different assessments that are out. The PDP. So my buddy, Alan Miner, I don't know if you know Alan, but he owns a company called Chiro Matchmakers with Mark Mao and Stephen Franson. And they have what's called a PDP assessment. It's an amazing assessment. I don't hire an associate without actually having them go through a PDP first, because it just assesses like their overall capabilities, their energy levels, like what really works for them. So peer-reviewed, peer-validated, scientifically validated assessments is a great way to like learn more about yourself. And then 360s. 360s is a process in which you have your team review you. You can send out like an anonymous survey on SurveyMonkey, and you ask a few simple questions. What are my greatest strengths? Where are my areas of opportunity to be a better leader? And then the third is, how can I support you better? I do this every year, but in 2019, it was kind of an interesting year. We were just kind of growing the tech company. There's a lot going on. And I sat down with my leadership team after taking it. I literally cried. Like, I had no idea that I was like doing these things to them that, like, they were experiencing. And I wasn't yelling at them. That wasn't it. That was way early in my career. But I'm very much coming up. I come up with a lot of ideas, and every time I came up with an idea, they're like, "Oh, he wants us to switch gears and do this now or do that now." And just simple feedback like that helped me communicate better with my team, and help me become a better leader. So using validated tools and also getting regular peer feedback from people on your team, very, very helpful to build self-awareness and help you become a better leader.
I bet you had to, can I pause you for a second? I bet you really had to eat your ego on the second you said sending out a survey for feedback. You know how painful that is for most people.
Yeah. And in the spirit of sorry, were you going to say something?
No, just go ahead.
Yeah. In the spirit of, Carol Dweck and her research on a growth mindset, people with a fixed mindset say feedback is personal. And people who have a growth mindset say, feedback is constructive, and I can learn something from it. So I love feedback. Like, I am always after I'm done speaking on stage, and I ask the audience, like, how did I do today? Like, was it helpful? Where did I deliver value? Where were my misses? Like, I did my site visit with Embody today, my Embody customers, like, where can this thing improve? Give it to me straight. Because I want to be able to serve, and I can't serve unless I know, where if I don't know where I can improve, then how can I serve better? So I would just encourage everybody: don't be afraid. It's fine. Have thick skin, learn from it, grow from it. You'll be so much happier that you do. Those are my words of advice if you're worried about getting feedback. The second question around insurance, like, what's the right model? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I think that I don't know if there is a right model, right? I think that's why I kind of wanted to bring it up, is that, some are more visit based and they see a lot of patients and they rely on insurance. Some are maybe longer. Maybe they want to spend an hour and they're probably cash based, if I had to guess. And it's like, maybe what have you found in your exploring of these, which it sounds like you're currently working on right now?
Yeah. I think that chiropractors will probably benefit more from finding that happy medium based on their practice style. So for me, because we see the insurance world as a portal of entry for patients, because many patients don't want to pay cash right away, or they want to use their insurance, I see it as a great portal of entry. We get, referrals from physicians, and they want to make sure that, we take most of the insurances and all that kind of stuff. We need to make those logistical barriers, talk about barriers and friction to drive behaviors. We want to reduce those barriers to entry. And then once we get them in, we know that we have other services that they might benefit from, including just chiropractic wellness when they're done with their care plan. So for us, it's about building a stronger hybrid model. For someone who's practiced insurance for over 30 years, I think insurance alone is a dead end. If I could drop the F-bomb right now, I would drop the F-bomb right now, because I really think it's a dead end. The insurance companies make billions of dollars a quarter. They really don't care about the patient. They don't care about the employers. And I think we as an industry, we've got to come up with new strategies and tactics to bring more patients into our offices. That's your area of expertise, Corey. Like, make sure that top of funnel is way bigger than 14%, which is the latest numbers from the Gallup study that was done several years ago. 14% is not acceptable given how much value that we create for the system. And so we need to just think differently about how we run our businesses. And if we think that we're going to build wealth and actually generate our own personal value or value for the business by just doing insurance, I think it's a dead end. I really do. And that's somebody who's practiced insurance for the last 30 plus years.
It's saying a lot, man, honestly. It's you're hitting to the crux as to actually why I got out of healthcare as a practitioner. I was in a very, very insurance-based system and model, and I very quickly realized how ineffective what I could actually do was when I had to play within the box and the rules of the system, because you can only do certain treatments and you can only spend a certain amount of time, and could they even afford it? And then you find out that cash base is actually cheaper than insurance. It's like, what the hell is going on here? And it's like, yeah, that's a big reason why I got out of it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a game of greed. The insurance game is a game of greed on the insurance side. I'm not saying on the provider side. The insurance companies, I used to call them liars, pigs, and thieves, but then I realized I can't insult pigs by, talking to them in the same vein as insurance companies, because insurance companies I love pigs. Pigs are great. They're animals, whatever. But liars and thieves, I mean, that's exactly what they are. And that's not, again, it's not an opinion, it's experience. It's data around, United Healthcare using AI to deny Medicare Advantage claims. These are our parents and our grandparents. And these companies are making billions of dollars and they're denying claims. The whole thing is just completely corrupt. And so again, I think as an industry, as conservative healthcare providers, OTs, PTs, chiros, functional medicine doctors, we just need a different way to go about caring for patients and delivering value and then being rewarded for that value. Yeah.
You might not know the answer to this question. It sounds like you're currently working through it, but for the future of your practices, do you anticipate yourself drifting towards a cash-based practice? What do you consider, what do you think?
I think that, and I can only speak probably for the next 2 to 5 years max. I don't know what's going to happen after that, but I would say that we probably will continue with insurance as a portal of entry mechanism for our businesses. But I know that over time, as we continue to evolve our cash-based services for very niche conditions, that will be a strategy that will work very well for us. I've seen it with other practices. Other practices around the country have done it very successfully. It's, shockwave for tendinopathies, it's spinal decompression for discs. It's these very targeted marketing strategies and clinical interventions that are going to drive great results for patients and great results for the business and consumers, especially when there's ways that you can make it affordable for them. Things like care credit or even in-house financing. You can charge a high ticket item and the patient get the care they need, and it can still be relatively affordable for them when they can pay it off over time.
Yeah, I've seen the shockwave thing blow up as a portal of entry, like you're mentioning. Man, The amount of clinics I've seen roll that into their practice, which honestly, it works. It's great.
Great evidence around it. Yep.
So as we begin to land this plane, if a business owner could only implement one of these strategies that we've talked about, from maybe AI tools or tech or whatever you want to tackle with this, that would ideally really help them to grow their practice, what would it be? What would you recommend? What would you suggest?
Well, Corey, as much as I would love to say Embody is the solution for all things, which it's not.
I threw you a softball, man.
It's an amazing technology, and I love it. And I know we're going to do amazing things for this world, and we are. I would say that for the vast majority of chiropractors that are out there right now, I would say the learn, playing, and implementing AI is really probably the most important thing they can do, because that can help them solve some of their HR, talent management, acquisition issues. It can help them solve operational issues. You can help them, with their marketing strategies. You can help them build, stronger clinical programs and drive better results and drive more income. So I think that probably for the vast majority of chiropractors out there that are listening, I would say if you had to do one thing, just start really diving in and playing and implementing AI. But when you get there, don't forget about Embody.
Dr. J, thanks for doing this. Embody Health, obviously. You also have a podcast, which you briefly alluded to, Tech Talk Healthcare, I believe.
Yeah, Tech Talk Healthcare. Yeah, you're going to come on soon, right? We got you scheduled.
Oh, yeah, we'll knock it out. Anywhere else where people can find you, search you, look you up, information?
Sure. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those places. You just search out my name, Dr. J Greenstein, and you'll find me. And just, my website is embodyhealth.com. If anybody has a question, wants, some help with something, just give me a shout, man. Just ask me a question. I'm always happy to help.
Cool. Thanks for doing this, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so much fun. Thanks, Corey.